Hello YouTube viewers, welcome to my channel Science to Technology. In today's show, Computer Camera Tuesday, we're going to talk about VFX Prop Part 2, specifically Pew Pew. We're going to talk about Pew Pew today. So you have to understand this. This is the most important thing about movie. Nobody gives a damn about story, nobody gives a damn about action, everybody gives a damn about Pew Pew. And it's every man's true first love. I'm not even joking about that. Every man. Pew Pew. So we all love a big boomstick. Everybody boomstick. Boomstick is the key. The boomstick is the technology that makes America into Merca. And every movie needs it. Every movie needs this. That's the law. You cannot have a movie without pew pew. So we start with the basic technology that is like very old, surprisingly old technology, is blanks. Basically, you have a firearm. Instead of projectile, you just have the cartridge itself. Basically, powder, primer, casing, that's it. You do not have the projectile. Now, this is as close as you can get to a quote-unquote real system without causing harm. However, you have to understand, this is not a toy. Not a toy. The weapons that are used are actual tools. And it does give you recoil, flash, and weapon cycling. Now, recoil matters because it has deal. Even if the recoil from these things would be completely different to a real weapon, it has a recoil. Many times you can see like low budget movies or like people where they are not putting effort, they are holding weapons like this. Like, that's really stupid. But if you have this, something that is actually cycling, it has far more realistic output compared to a real weapon. And be mindful, many military schools and police academies, they use this sort of thing as a training tool where they're like, okay, get used to the system, then we switch you to final projectile, which is a much better practical use. Then you have flash, really necessary for camera because again, especially at night scene. Daytime, it does not make that much of a difference, especially outdoors. But in nighttime, it makes huge difference. The flash cannot be faked. Light is one of those things that you have to put light in the scene, only then you can truly capture it. So it has the flash and weapon cycling, specifically important for basically automated weapon. Because if you do not have that and you're just like, let's say, you pull the trigger, you have a real system, but there is nothing in it, pull the trigger, nothing will happen. At best, you can fire the slide one time. If slide is manually charged, that's it, done. If weapon won't cycle, so weapon needs action mass. Action mass is coming from basically the gas power. The only thing that annoys me is like the miniguns in the movies. It's like they have a minigun, it's like, drrr. I'm like, dude, minigun takes lot of electrical power. It's like somehow entire planet forgot that it even if you can watch that FPS Russian back in the day when he was popular, he had a real minigun. There was a giant battery bank that you need to power that puppy because it's not cycling using basically gas power, it's cycling using electrical power. So you have to understand, weapons, especially automated weapons, they require energy to cycle. If you do not have gas, it cannot cycle. And that's why modern times, if you do not want to tamper with this, you can just use a airsoft gun. It does have a compressed CO2 system, so it can go or sometimes it has battery system. Now, it does need professional for safety because these things may look like toy, may look like, hey, it's no harm. But here's the deal. It is serious weapon. Flat out, under the hands of untrained, unqualified people, these things could be flat out lethal. Flat out. Not even like, oh, it could harm you. No, it will harm you. So in hands of professional, good tool. In hands of people who do not know what they are doing, you go up. Flat out, you go up. And this is very bad for the weapons also, specifically very high caliber, high quality modern tools. They do not like it. Like you can read their service manual. It's like, 5,000 rounds for this. And again, depending on the system, many manufacturers would be like, dude, can you please just not run this system? Again, recoil vector changes. So if you are relying on recoil and recoil is acting completely differently, it will not. And many times, again, depending on the weapon system, you may have a dedicated cartridge built for it just so it can cycle properly. It's not good for device. Military will never let just like go. That's why many military, most of the time, they just use real ammo. It's far more practical. But they are very loud, like loud AF. As in, if you're using indoors, it's really painful to your hearing or harmful to your hearing. It has to be taken very seriously and lethal at close range. Flat out lethal. As you can see, this is the smallest you can buy, 0.22. And if somebody does like there's a scene doing that, and you just like, it's a blank, I'm gonna bam, you did. Flat out dead. Like you can see it. And again, God help you if somebody did that with a shotgun shell or 50 caliber. It's, again, what is projecting the projectile? Gases. You have the gases, so you have the energy. It's just not coupled properly. So you're gonna get obliterated, especially at close range. So it is one of those things that has to be taken very seriously. That's why the modern use of this has gone down so drastically, because when it comes to the hard part of it is that people have actually lost their life, not as a joke, not as a that. It's like people have actually lost it, like the end, you did, simply because somebody forgot that this sort of thing could happen. And worst case scenario, even if you are doing from far range, you could accelerate some debris, something small, and you can injure someone. So it has happened enough time that more and more Hollywood is no longer looking into this. It's like, dude, just replace all of those things with the airsoft system. It does have that basically a little bit of gas coming out, has weapon cycling animations, so those things do work, but that's why you will not see blanks used as much as back in the days. So you have to understand, like, it's not worth it. It's not worth to die to entertain someone. It's not Rome anymore. So this is one thing that you have to understand. These are not a toy. Again, these are sub tool that are used to train you for real tools. So it has to be, treated with respect. Every weapons, they have their own manual for it. It's like this sort of manufacturer only use this gunpowder mixture, all that jazz. It's a very high risk games. That's why we are no longer seeing it anymore. It's very dangerous. Then we come to science fiction. Now, science fiction, thankfully, you can use electricity to make your prop. Now, here's the deal. There are two major things that you want to put in a sci-fi prop if it is a recoil-based system. Meaning, if you're using, this is coil gun, this is rail gun, you want to have recoil and mass and all that jazz. So in those scenarios, you can have recoil motors. Recoil motor could be just a vibrator motor if you are showing machine gun, because it will do that. And if you want to show something like sniper kind of thing, you may have, like, there are movie studios that will build a dedicated props for you, whereas mass would be there, would be linearly accelerated, basically like, so it has that oomph, and like it feels real. And flash, as you can see, this is like from Guardians of the Galaxy. They have that LED things going on. Nowadays, LEDs are cheap enough that you should be able to do that. Especially on big weapons, you can really put that much effort. And it does show. Be mindful. I specified lighting is one of those things that you cannot fake. So if you have light there and it's emitting light, let's say it's a laser and it's emitting red light. If red light is actually there, the cast light would be truly there. So VFX artist is just adding on to it. VFX artist loves to add things on, not to flat out create something from scratch. So having that sort of system makes a very, very big difference. And be mindful, mass and recoil cannot be faked. If your weapon is just static, actor has to do like this, and it will show that actor is doing it. It will show, because how do we see these movies? Giant screen. So it will show very clearly. But if you have a recoil motor, it shows that you are reacting to it rather than it acting to you. So it's a very clear distinction. It's like you are moving the gun or weapon is moving you. For that reason, it's always advisable to have recoil motor setup. And flash, again, flash helps the VFX artist for a lot. Like this is from, tell me which movie this is, and it was quite amazing. Like they had this weapon that rotates like this to recharge. Now here's the deal. You can see there is a close-up. His hand is going like this, but why? Because that's a heavy prop. They spent time to make that, because again, if they did not do that, it will rotate like this. When they put mass into it, your hand automatically compensates for it, and that's why it feels real. You do not even think about it, that it's like, this is a stupid weapon. It's like, what the hell? But it feels so awesome, and everybody who looked in theater is like, damn, son. That's one of those things that mass and recoil cannot be faked. So if you have a thing, you actually spent time, let's say it took 3 days or 4 days or maybe a week to build a final prop, which has mass, which has bearing, which has ratchet mechanism. You do this, everybody's like, shut up and take my money. Shut up, take my money. Flat out. That's why it has to be done. This is one of those things. Just because in science fiction does not mean you can just like lol. Again, you can do that. Hey, it's a laser weapon, so you do not have that. But again, act like it. Do not be like, laser weapon is like going, have like this. It's like, don't be like, hey, why is recoiling so stupid? Oh, it's laser weapon. No, it's not supposed to recoil. Either it recoils or does not recoil. So be mindful. Science fiction does not mean like just don't put effort in it. For example, many times like Guardians of the Galaxy, they had a scene where Gamora was holding a huge ass gun on her shoulder. They put a huge ass metal frame, just a frame. They did not build the whole prop. They put a frame, and again, one person was just pulling from behind, and she had to walk forward. And that action and interaction, given the fact that the mask that is okay, it gives her a reference for CG artists where the hand should be awesome. And then she's moving. But again, if she was moving just like okay, I'm just moving with a empty frame, it will not carry the weight. So, but there is a person that is making her life difficult. So it shows that this is a big, heavy thing that you are moving along, even though it's not as heavy. So those things do add up. If you give, good in, good out, garbage in, garbage out. So science fiction does not mean you do not put effort into it. You put effort into it and you're like, it looks awesome. Oh, again, you may even able to add a speaker that just plays a very sharp tone. The reason for that is, have you ever paid attention that no movie has gun sound echoes? Somehow they are firing indoors and there is not even a single echo. So it's one of those things. And then we come to the final, ingredient, reaction. This is what sells your boom. So you can literally have actual firearm fighting. You can have a close-up shot. Everything is awesome. You have a slow motion, like 2000 frames per second. Awesome. Like weapon is truly cycling, true projectile going, and the person in front is like, so it will not sell. So it's one of those things. So you can have a garbage pew pew, but like if you do not have a good reaction, it does not work. You have good reaction on a pew pew, garbage pew pew, it's gonna work. So that's the thing that sells the boom. So if you have something like this where it's like, oh, I'm gonna, it's like pew, it's like, what the hell, man? What the hell? It's like, cut. Oh no, I have to act like this. Like, dude, that looks cheap. That's one of those things that you have to understand. And squibbed booms, basically you have squibs that go beam beam is and added with red liquid is the easiest way to give like a realistic effect. Now be mindful, I do not want you to Google real world weapon shooting. It's not good for your soul to look into those things, but it's one of those things that we do like cartoonish quote unquote representation rather than real world one. So pyrotechnics are generally used. Now pyrotechnics with red color, that if you have few red color, you will notice that, again, I have given this tribute videos down below, that too much dust is coming out. If you see too much dust, smoke coming out, that means pyrotechnic charge was much more powerful and the liquid was too little. So in those sort of scenarios, this will happen. They were going yellow on doo-doo. It was like very awesome. And back in the days, like early 80s to 90s, they were like going yellow on liquid. That's why like movies from that time is like so much liquid. They realized color film can actually capture a bright red, so they're like using very red fluid and lot of it, and it's like boom. And it also has another effect because again you're putting a lot of mass out, it's pushing the actor. So again, their pyrotechnic charge is on a cup, that cup protects your body and then it goes up, but again it does push on you. Again, action equals reaction, you're pushing out, so you're pushing in. That also gives them a cue to how to react. It's like, you will notice that many old movies, they have like film based high speed camera, and the actor is still reacting in sync. How the heck they're like, the scene is happening and then he's reacting. It's like, how the heck that is synced? Again, because it's a pyrotechnic, inherently he got the cue. The moment this went off, he got the cue, okay, now I have to react. Many times you could have seen that is like, again, action and reaction does not line up. That's not an issue if you're using pyrotechnics. Again, more and more people are moving away from it. They are moving to compressed air system. It does have a consequence of having giant pipes coming through, but it does work. It does work. And it will not have the effect of like, why the heck smoke is coming out of your wound. So it won't have that effect. But you have to be mindful, pyrotechnics are loud. Again, it's one of those things, back in the days before safety was invented, nobody cared about it. Nowadays, people do care about their hearing. So be mindful. If you are like, hey, I don't want to use pyrotechnic, don't get angry on it. Figure out how to use compressed air system. And actors have to be trained for it. Otherwise, they're going to act like this. This is just... Actors have to be actually trained for it. It's one of those things. The reason why squibs are no longer popular, again, it's not as dangerous as like blank systems. The reason is that it's simply messy. It's very, very messy. Unless you have a scenario where your nude girl is getting shot in a bathroom, cleanup is gonna take a hell lot of time. And not to mention, many times they have a cloth which is like weakened, so it actually breaks apart. The cloth, like your cloth will have that effect. So that cannot be done again and again. So you may need 2 or 3 shots. So retakes are very difficult with real world squibs. And CGI will look cheap, flat out. And squibs has one of those benefits that no matter how old you go back, it always looks better. Like I'll give you a simple example. Hitman was built 2 times, current iteration and back iteration. The back iteration, they had like a real squibs. It looks far better than compared to the recent remakes. Again, CGI will always look fake compared to real option. So it's one of those things. And again, acting does play a role. If you are not acting properly, you are not acting in sync, it's not gonna sell very well. And low effort shows through. There are movies that are popular just for this sort of thing. So be very mindful. You have to train your actors and they have to react to it. Again, if you can use squibs, use squibs. If you are sensitive to noise, no problem, use a compressor, but do use something. Like, do not be like, oh, I have to clean things up, figure things up. Like, have a scenario where things is happening in the bathroom. If you ever notice why so many things happen in bathroom, that's the reason. It's very easy to clean up. So that's why people do it. So it's one of those things that you have to understand. And this is what sells it. Like, you can figure out like everything till that point, but if there is no reaction, it does not work that well. So this was my presentation on Pew Pew on movies. Hopefully you have liked it, learned from it. In that case, please click the like button, share it amongst your friends. That will help me a lot. If you didn't like it, didn't enjoy it, I urge you to press dislike, press it twice to show me extra disappointment. Please leave a comment because I do try to reply to all of them. Subscribe, press the bell icon if you're free, and as always, thanks for watching.